Oh my God, Operation Epic Fail. Okay, here it is. So last night, I saw this tweet. Okay, this tweet that came at 2 p.m. yesterday. And I thought to myself, oh no, oh no, no, no. I thought to myself,
Oh, no, 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 no.
now let me explain something to you. Do you see something here? U.S. Central Command comes out of nowhere and says the Iranian regime claims to have killed 50 U.S. service members. Lie! There have been no reported U.S. casualties. And I thought, that's strange. Why the fuck? Why are they saying that? Was that even a thing? Right? Was that even a thing that people were saying? Then they said the IRGC claims the U.S. Navy ship was struck by a missile. Lie. And that's when I realized, oh my God, they actually probably did kill American service members because they definitely did strike a U.S. Navy ship. I saw it with my own two damn eyes. I saw it through the lens of a Chinese tourist in Tel Aviv freaking out in Chinese, filming it, posting it on a Chinese social media application. I saw it. We all saw it. So I was like, well, that's a fucking lie. They're literally saying no U.S. Navy ship has been struck. Nope, a supply ship had absolutely been struck. So I thought, very weird that they're saying that. And then they said the Iranian regime is claiming severe damage at multiple U.S. bases. Lie. And I thought, that's also strange. Because especially the one in Bahrain has been hit quite a bit. Like the Bahrain naval base that the United States has is basically like the ugly duckling of the pile. Iran is just fucking hammering that bitch. Literally nonstop. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what kind of smoke they have. Maybe they think like if they really rile up the Shia base in Bahrain, they can just like overthrow the government or something. Cause like they've just decided actually our fire, our smoke, we have it for Israel, we have it for America, but motherfuck the UAE and Bahrain in particular has been the attitude from the IRGC. I don't listen. They have a horizontal structure. Okay? They have a horizontal structure in their command and control in their operations, and very clearly it doesn't matter like that the Ayatollah is dead, and the Iranian military, well, not the Iranian military, sorry. Remarkable clip in here, which actually says the regime has no longer any effective command and control over the IRGC. We're going to talk about that. The IRGC is in charge. But what you also have to understand, as Arakshi correctly explains in this clip, which I saw earlier, is that, and this is what I mean when I say there's been a spectacular intelligence failure on behalf of the Amer-Israeli side, or the media has also just like kind of dropped the ball in their explanations here. While the Ayatollah has final say on all of these decisions, they have developed like multiple parallel structures here, especially with respect to the IRGC and the military incidents or the military operations that they've the military systems that they've put in place, even if there is some kind of decapitation strike, okay? And that is clear. Like you cut the head of like one of the snakes, and then 3 other heads appear, and there's also a body structure that exists that is completely intact. It doesn't matter. Like the Ayatollah gets killed, it doesn't matter. This is what I was trying to explain to you guys yesterday. It's basically like a Hydra system, right? The Americans and the Israeli side made it seem as though if they just like chop down the heads of the IRGC, then they don't have a contingency plan. It'll be a state of panic. And basically like the people will rise up and the Iranian population will seize control over their own destiny. They'll rise up. They'll take over the bases. They'll hand over their ballistic missiles program to Israel, and they'll live happily ever after as servants of the petro-capitalist pedophilic billionaire Epstein class and the empire. You roll end credits, empire wins, whatever, right? But real life is not a fucking Marvel movie. These guys are a very competent fucking state. They're a very ruthless state, certainly. They're definitely a ruthless state, right? Make no mistake. But they're still a fucking competent state. When you look at Iran and you think like, oh, they're just like the Taliban, brother. That's what I heard in the fucking news. Like, they don't know anything. Like, they're all running around in flip-flops. Like, how dare they defy our orders? Like, we'll destroy them. You're going to get the wrong assessment. You're going to make the wrong assessment. You're going to have the wrong analysis. And you're going to be utterly confused as to why Iran has been fucking pummeling Tel Aviv and numerous other parts of Israel while simultaneously unloading a barrage of short-range missiles at every fucking American base in the goddamn region, including hotels and apartment complexes that a lot of the service members have ran into and are staying in. Because here's the other side of the story. I mean, I can't speak for Dubai. I kind of feel like the UAE strikes are just personal. Like, you can have just maybe some one rogue like IRGC team that's like, I really fucking hate Dubai, bro. I fucking want to punish him and whatnot. But like, when you see those images of like apartment complexes being struck by Shahed drones, and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? Why are they like hitting civilian infrastructure? This is not a justification for it, by the way. It's still illegal technically. But the reason why they're doing that on top of blowing up these fucking American bases is because there's around, I would say, 10 to 20% of ground troop mobilization in comparison to like the war in Iraq, right? But they're still there. There's still service members in the region. And you can't really fly them out away from, you can't really take all the armed service members from the bases that exist in this region and just fly them to Israel, because then you're putting a bigger bead and a bigger target. You're making it easier for Iran to consistently fucking pummel Israel because all the armed service members are there. Great, right? So what they ended up doing is they withdrew their forces from the base. The American government withdrew their forces from the military bases. The military bases are still like half operational, where all the radar and the sophisticated early advanced warning systems are, and they took all of the guys and put them in hotels and put them in like, civilian infrastructure. Okay. But they're still there. Like, they're obviously still there. They're just like waiting out this bombing campaign so they can go back to the fucking bases. And what I find particularly interesting about that, what I think is like somewhat embarrassing about America's actions so far, is that while they brought up the fucking armada, 50% of our naval assets, tens of billions of dollars. I mean, we're talking USS Gerald Ford, the poop chute, as you might know, is $13 billion. It's a fucking moving island, right? And all of these naval assets are moving into the region, and yet the bases can't defend themselves. And one must ask the question, why? And I think it's because the American government, the Department of Defense, basically decided, we just pull out from the bases. We eat the fucking costs of whatever kind of bombing campaigns take place on the American bases, but we protect Israel. Because there's a limited amount of resources at play here, even with the United States of America, the most powerful nation on the planet, the most sophisticated military on the planet. It is very, very difficult to maintain a protective stance with Israel, especially as the Iranian ballistic missiles are more sophisticated than they previously had thought. This is again, an intelligence failure, right? The anti-defense systems that Israel has and the Americans have, like the THAADs that they brought into Israel with American soldiers that are operating said THAADs, for example, are also not as good at interceptions as we also previously thought. That's intelligence failure number 2. Okay? And what is going on here is Iran, the singular nation in the region, with some help from the Houthis in Yemen, right? The Ansar Allah movement in Yemen, are causing as much attrition as possible and causing as much economic damage and instability as possible to the whole region while simultaneously continuously pummeling Tel Aviv. What's really interesting, what's really remarkable about this is that American generals actually had a much more sober analysis about this. And clearly Donald Trump was not listening to them. And that's precisely the reason why they kept fucking explaining to the media, kept leaking to the media that if we do this, it's going to be a spectacular problem, right? They wanted to wash their hands over the casualties. They were like, we did our due diligence. We told Trump. He didn't listen because there was another guy out there who was in Trump's ear over and over again, telling him everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. We just strike Iran and it'll be good. It'll be so good. That guy was Benjamin Netanyahu. And it's very clear that the Trump administration is comprised entirely of the fucking weird philosemitic boomers that are, closest in his orbit, the neocons themselves, who looked at what Benjamin Netanyahu was saying and truly believed the Israeli intelligence. I think they believed that as long as you kill the Ayatollah and the IRGC and a couple other high priority targets, that the Iranian population will rise up and Iran will not be able to actually withstand this decapitation strike, and it'll be just like Hezbollah. It'll be like Hassan Nasrallah. If you recall, they pummeled Lebanon over and over again, and they took out a lot of the missile launching capabilities of Hezbollah. And in the aftermath of that, the Hezbollah fighting force didn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. They could not even recover from Hassan Nasrallah's assassination. Part of that was because Hezbollah is a paramilitary force with a party in a nation that is not a sovereign nation inside of Lebanon. Iran is a sovereign nation. Iran has the entire force of 93 million people. Why are you saying philosemitic? What the heck, Hasan? Like what? Philosemitic, as in like the other side of anti-Semitism. Still an otherization of Jews, and this notion that the idea that Israel's capabilities are beyond, the Japanese imperial forces that thought Jews were magic money people. I think that there are definitely some older boomers in the conservative movement that have this kind of assessment where they're like, yeah, you know how it is. You know how Israel is. It's the Jewish nation. They're all fucking super smart guys. Trump has done this over and over again. Mike Huckabee is a great example of this as well. Anyway, so Tel Aviv getting smacked right now. Ninth wave just went off. Lots of destruction videos are going to be pouring in. I know. So, genuine question. Why does Trump admin believe Israel's intelligence more than our own? Great question. This is not the first time Donald Trump has done this. He's kind of a fucking idiot. I'm going to be honest. He's kind of stupid. He did this with Russia too. I think he truly thinks when a hot guy comes in, when a strong man comes in that he's fond of, and I don't even think he fucks with Netanyahu that much, as opposed to Vladimir Putin, who he really wants to fuck. I think he just literally goes, nah, my generals are woke. They want to stop me from doing glory. It's truly about who gets to convince him. It's truly about who gets to convince him better. And his current cabinet appointees are not actually fucking smart people at all. They're morons. and they're sycophants. So they just kind of sit there and if Benjamin Netanyahu has the capability of greasing the fucking wheels and telling him everything he wants to hear, right? And obviously there's also a lot of money involved here as well. He's going to listen. It's very clear. He's going to listen. And it takes a while for him to like recognize the truth. It takes a while for him to go, wait a minute, you lied to me. This is not working, right? Like nation states have the capacity, unlike ever before, to single-handedly charm the dear leader at this point. It's very, very interesting. There are, however, people that can't charm him. Like Maduro was one of those guys. I don't know why he just like had extra smoke for Maduro always. But like, I think people just go into that fucking meeting and say all the right words, and he listens to them, and they glaze him, and they tell him like, you'll be a legend, you'll kill the Ayatollah, you'll save Iran, or like you'll make Iran into a beautiful opportunity for Trump. Like we'll build Trump towers everywhere in Iran. Tehran will be entirely, Trump territory. They will love you. Look at all these fucking diaspora guys that love you already. All this stuff, and I think he believes it. And then when generals come in, even like Raisin Kane comes in, who is also sycophantic in his own way, okay, and comes in and tells him, no, dude, we're not going to have enough missiles left if you do this. And he goes, that's not what my beautiful friends over at Israel told me, and I really believe them. You know how the Jews are. They got the hypnosis power. They got the magic money power. I love my Jews. I'm going to go with the Jews. And then he just fucking says, no, we're doing it. Like, I think that's if I was a fly on the wall, I think that's what I would have observed, especially considering that you will see something unprecedented. I went to sleep feeling hopeless, and I woke up with an entirely new, refreshed perspective. I think Donald Trump is going to try to find like a Pyrrhic victory here for himself. He's going to try to carve out like a success story for himself. And now it's entirely in the hands of Iran. If Iran's like, no, we're pulling a Vladimir Putin, fuck that, actually. We're going to keep pummeling. Donald Trump is cooked. Do you understand? Because, like, regime fills Isfahan's iconic central square with supporters. I don't even think this is from this year. Also, it's surprising because Arash Azizi is not even, like, fucking, what? I don't think this is from today, by the way. I think this is an old video. It's from, like, 2020 or something. I don't know why these guys who are not even, like, pro-IRGC are doing, like, pro-IRGC propaganda almost. Yeah, so for years, if not decades, neocons have tried to manufacture consent for regime change and war with Iran by painting it as a cakewalk due to the lack of support for the regime. But just as anti-regime Iranians are real, so alas, as the regime backers. Yeah, these guys are fucking being weird about the fake news. But yes, of course, there's a fucking solid base of support within Iran for the regime. People are so dumb. Yeah, the this is real. Yeah, I think this is the real one. Gigantic crowd in Isfahan. Naqsh Jahan Square to mourn Supreme Leader Khamenei. Like, people are so fucking delusional. This is what I mean. There is a serious information vacuum. There is a serious stupidity problem in this fucking country. People who are even well-read, people who want to understand the truth, still get biased reporting from mainstream outlets and think they have the full scope, the full understanding of exactly what's going on. And not only that, but then they also turn around and yell at motherfuckers like me who are like, that's not how things are. I'm going to try to explain this to you as to the best of my ability. And people go, shut the fuck up. You love the IRGC. You love the Ayatollah. Why are you not listening to the diaspora Iranians? Why are you not listening to the NPR reports that go and ask people in Tehran how excited they are about being bombed and whatnot? Like, It's very frustrating. Okay, it's very, very frustrating. They go, that's misinformation. Why? Because I don't want to hear what you have to say. And it's very stupid. I've told you time and time again that while the regime is unpopular, there is still a very popular base of support for the regime itself. Okay? That's. Shut the fuck up. Projected winner, Ayatollah Stacey Abrams. Yeah, here is Kev June, who is no fan of the IRGC whatsoever. One thing that is consistently overlooked in Western discourse about Iran is the state's base of popular support. Millions who sincerely believe in the project of the Islamic Republic. And the notion that these people will just disappear in a post-IR Iran is deeply fanciful. Ironically enough, if you ask the fucking Gulf states or if you ask any of the Sunni Muslim majority countries, this is the reason why they want to fucking bomb Iran. Okay? This is the reason why they hate Iran. Okay? At least they have a better understanding of the fervor demonstrated by the popular fucking base of support for the Ayatollah, for the Shia version of Islam, like the ways in which the governments are supposed to work, like the true Islam, right? Because this is where that sectarian division actually does come into play. While most people say we're all Muslim, who gives a shit? There is a differing attitude in this fucking region for that, for this, and also all of the other, conflicts that have taken place in both Syria and everywhere else, where on the one hand you have the fucking the Wahhabist sects, the Salafist brigades and whatnot, and you have the Shia response to that, the IRGC and Hezbollah and the like, constantly fucking fighting against one another. Don't generalize. Most Sunnis don't hate Iran. No, I'm not. I'm talking about like regional leadership. All the way from Turkey to Saudi Arabia to every other one of these, to all these other countries, right? How's your dog? Dude, there's something really funny about, America going into another fucking World War Epstein style situation. And dumbfuck saw like a tweet from one of these like pro-Israel meme accounts that can't actually fucking talk about, Tel Aviv getting destroyed by Iranian missiles. So they have to be like, oh, I bet Hassan's going to be real mad and he's going to like murder his dog in anger. And then that, of course, goes viral on Twitter. And then dumbfucks come in here and they're like, hey, I know there's like a possible cataclysmic event taking place right now where billions of our American tax dollars are going to be expended at the behest of Israel. American service members have already died and they're going to continue dying in the process for Israel. But I just wanted to say, like, my real interest right now is whether or not you, a content creator I don't like for offering analysis that I don't want to hear, is potentially abusing his dog. Yes, dude. Place. Anyway, so this is another one of the problems. This is another one of the issues with the American media class not giving you the full scope, not offering, not telling you exactly what's going on. Okay? Please don't abuse your dog. Place. Is the rotisserie chicken getting groomed? No, she's at the park. It's so strange. Why don't you just explain where she is? Brother, are you fucking stupid? Every morning she goes to the park. Like, what is happening? Why do you guys genuinely think that there is some fuckery going on? It's very, very strange. I'm gonna unban you. But it's just such an odd thing. It's such an odd thing to be like, this is what I genuinely care about. Like, I'm beginning to understand that if like Anderson Cooper had a fucking live chat on CNN, this is all the chat would look like. He'd be like, all right, we're tuning in live to Isfahan Square, where there was a lot of, pro-regime protesters, and motherfuckers would be like, Anderson, how did you do your hair today? I need to know how your hair looks. I need to know what made, what product do you use in your hair? Anderson, will you blow my back walls out, please? So, it's because you respond to them? Yeah, that's true. As I was saying, lock in, everybody. Lock in! So I gave you a couple different points of intelligence failure and a couple different points of like misinformation, basically, that's been running amok, that has caused people to take totally incorrect positions on this issue so far. This doesn't mean that like Iran is going to be stable and continue pummeling Israel or anything like that. Things could very well collapse later down the line. But having said that, for the time being, as I explained to you yesterday, whenever people were coming in and being like, well, the Ayatollah is dead, before the full confirmation came in, I kept saying over and over again, even if the Ayatollah is dead, Iran has developed contingency plans specifically for this reason, like specifically for this exact same thing happening. So if you undermine your foreign adversary, if you feel like Iran is a foreign adversary and you undermine them, you're going to make a mistake. For Christ's sake, you're an ISIS agent. An ISIS agent? This is the other side of the story and a byproduct of people being unimaginably obtuse and incredibly dumb and not knowing anything. Iran and ISIS are not aligned with one another. ISIS and Israel are aligned with one another. ISIS and America oftentimes are aligned to the same interests against Iran, ironically enough. So my suspicion is that the Americans, led by faulty Israeli intelligence, came into this with a lot of confidence, thinking that if they did a decapitation strike where they took out like a bunch of the IRGC commanders and also the Ayatollah himself, that the Iranian state would basically collapse. And then there would be a lot of, like, they would not be able to attack. It would not be able to strike back. They would take out their missile silos and their missile launchers. And then what would come after that is a popular mobilization of the forces on the ground. And then the Iranian government would just collapse in and of itself, right? And unfortunately for them, that's not what happened. Delayed Autistic Guppy says, moreover, Iranian public approval of Israel is super low. A 2024 poll from a DC think tank showed that 64% of Iranians completely disagree on normalizing relations with Israel. 84% attribute the deaths of civilians in the 12-day war to Israel, not the regime. Even in the unreliable hyper-diasporoid Gaman polls, Israel has a plurality disapproval in Iran. Yes. That's the other side of the story as well. And I think Israel knows that, for the record. I think Israel knows that, which is part of the reason why they would rather just completely fucking turn Iran into Libya rather than allow it to have like any kind of sovereignty whatsoever. But they're telling Trump the wrong shit. They're telling Trump that, oh, it's super easy. We just strike out their fucking missile launchers and we on top of that kill the fucking leadership, and then boom, popular mobilization, popular revolution. You look like a goddamn legend. You get to take out this 40-year leader, 40-year leadership, 40 plus years of this Ayatollah, longest running dictator in the world, that kind of thing. And it looks great. It looks like a great crowning achievement for you. But that's not what's going on right now. That's not what's going on right now at all. And yet, because we are a bunch of fucking cattle here in the heart of empire, people aren't even asking that question. People aren't even turning around and going, wait a minute, you told me if the Ayatollah is dead, then revolution time, right? And Iran can't even fucking strike back. Now you're telling me they're killing American soldiers. Yes, for Israel, Trump is the one U.S. president who finally delivered the big war on Iran that Israel pushed for decades. But there's a chance he may also be the worst possible president to manage that war and U.S.-Israel relations if it goes south. I think Sina Tusi is being a little too hopeful, because I think when it comes to Israel, Donald Trump treats them as a special bestie. So I don't know if they'll actually like eventually write Israel off. But that's what he is signaling here. Because like if this becomes so unpopular that there's like that he starts losing his own base of support, which very well could happen, then he's gonna say Israel is the reason why we did this and become the most like. The idea is that he's gonna sell Israel out in the same way that he sells anyone out that becomes a problem for him. So there were Palestinians who felt a sense of relief when Yahya Sinwar died, hoping their life would go back to normal. Didn't happen. Yeah, you're talking to like 8 Palestinians, by the way. Like, yeah, there are secular and like Fatah Palestinians living in Gaza that felt like Yahya Sinwar was ruthless in the way that he dealt with like collaborators and shit like that. But that's not like a majority approval amongst Palestinians by any metric. Let's be real. In any case, it doesn't matter, right? I get the broader point that you're trying to put together here, which is that these guys, the powerful forces, the more powerful foreign forces, these alien forces, do not give a fuck about, they do not give even an iota of a fuck about the normal existence of like people that they're dominating, whether they be the Palestinian population, whether they be the Iranian population, right? So that's the situation at hand right now. But here, let's get a little bit of let's get a moment of humor here, and then we'll get into the real juice and the sauce. But statement number 8 by IRGC: based on the continuous sound of ambulance sirens at American and Zionist bases, as well as field reports and intelligence monitoring, a psychological crisis unfolding among U.S. forces and Zionist settlers. It emphasized that sustained and targeted pressure by Iran's armed forces will further intensify conditions for them. Missile and drone operations will continue in a sustained and comprehensive manner, and further operational achievements will be announced to the Iranian people. This right here, this is, if this is like the maximum amount of damage that Iran can put down, if this is the maximum amount of damage Iran can put down, and they can sustain this for an extended period of time, it's not great for America or Israel, okay? If they have more in the tank, and they can actually increase the intensity, oh boy, it's really fucked. It is really, really bad for America and Israel, okay? One of the reasons why I'm saying this is because this is not like the 12-day war at all, okay? During the 12-day war, it took quite a while for Iranian missiles to actually start penetrating the Iron Dome. Iran struck an area in occupied Palestinian territory earlier this morning, 6 hours ago. Iranians struck a bomb shelter. The number of deaths at the time that were confirmed had risen to 8 settlers. We think the number is even higher than that, okay? If Israelis can no longer feel safe inside of their bomb shelters, that changes the risk profile for Israel overnight, instantaneously. Their appetite for death and destruction, like for the broader Israeli public, also comes from the fact that they have always felt protected. During the 12-day war, you had a bunch of old people. There was some debris that fell. There were a couple people died. I believe it was like around 30 people. But for the most part, society was in a state of panic for sure, but They weren't in a state of real panic. It's the same principle with the United States of America. America is sheltered from the impact of its actions with the very with the very little exceptions like 9/11, right? Blowback in the form of 9/11 was one of the very few instances where America actually received some consequences for all of their meddling in the affairs of the Middle East. This is the same with Israel. October 7 was part of that equation for sure. And once again, with the working knowledge that America would protect them and they would have unlimited weapons and they could just like go and wreak havoc around the region, they were still very comfortable. They were still very comfortable, right? This takes away that comfort. This takes away that comfort entirely. If they keep throwing salvo upon salvo, and the number of Israelis that die as a consequence of those ballistic missiles increases, all of a sudden the calculation changes dramatically, because for once Israel is the recipient of all of their death dealing. For once they actually see penalties in the heartland. That does not happen normally. And they don't have the same appetite for war all of a sudden, because now society is collapsing. Now it's unstable. This is in some ways an advantage that, you know, Palestinians have over the Israelis, because all they've known is living devoid of any sort of bomb shelter whatsoever. All they've known is death and destruction. So there is a lot more punishment that they can withstand, even if they don't want to, because there's no fucking other alternative. They've never actually seen another alternative. For Israel, they've never experienced this. Israeli society has never actually seen an endless amount of missiles coming in their direction where they're no longer safe inside of their bomb shelters. Okay? This causes the calculation to change dramatically, especially in a country with supremacist attitudes, with supremacist values. Okay? In some ways, Israeli comfort for the longest time is leading to Israeli weakness. Because they talk about how strong they are of a nation state, how proud they are, and how militant they can be, and how they can punish anyone and everyone, no matter no matter how people respond or whatever. But the reality of the matter is, they're not used to this shit.
Oh,
look,
shit. Some motherfucking rocket! Oh my!
and yes, the same could be said about Americans as well. Absolutely. Which, by the way, ironically, this guy is an American living in Israel. 4 people were killed by an Iranian ballistic missile impact in Beit Shemesh. Magen David Adom says footage shows the moment of the impact.
Oh shit! Some motherfucking rocket! Oh my!
This just happened too. Footage posted to social media shows what could be a submunitions from an Iranian cluster bomb warhead crashing down on Israel this evening amid a ballistic missile attack. Videos show some 24 fragments streaking through the sky. Now, before we get into the condemnations in international law, this is one of the consequences of severely violating international law. When you have a sovereign nation state who you open up a new fucking theater of war with, that has a fuck ton of missiles, and your opening salvo is the decapitation strike of the entire leadership structure, they're gonna fucking say, all right, well, you don't give a shit about international rule-based order or international laws whatsoever. We're not gonna give a shit about it too. That's the other side of this story. This is part of the reason why you're supposed to abide by the rules, right? You're supposed to abide by the rules of conflict. You go in, you kill a fucking bunch of, you shoot up a school in the most American and Israeli fashion, by the way. America loves its own indigenous school shootings, its own domestic school shootings, and America loves doing school shootings with their bombs overseas, some school children are going to die, right? It's just, we have an endless appetite for murdering children. We just have to do it, okay? But when you do that and you force people into a corner, just like the Palestinians on October 7 or leading up to October 7, they're going to say, all right, we got to fucking fight out of this corner. We got to fight our way out of this goddamn corner. And that's precisely what's happening right now. For years and years, I have said, you got to stop. You got to stop. You can't do this. These violent designs will lead to violent ends. Okay? There will be a violent conclusion. My sibling is studying overseas in one of the Israeli cities that's getting bombed to shit. And even though I wish she wasn't in Israel, I'm terrified for her. Exactly. Like, this is... And while Benjamin Netanyahu gets to fucking fly out to Berlin, potentially, I don't know if that's real or not, right? You know, your sister is stuck. And now, the bomb shelters are not working, okay? This was seen on Nablus, bro. It's raining bombs. Yeah, they're using fragmentation warheads, cluster striking, cluster munitions. These are unpredictable. These don't actually fucking go. I mean, that could just be pieces that... Everybody, that could be debris from interception, but everybody thinks, even if it's cluster bombs, you have to understand something. Everybody fucking thinks only America and Israel get to deploy these weapons. Do you understand? Like, this is something that America and Israel has utilized. As a matter of fact, the Iranian retaliation so far has not even remotely met the standard of what Israel has done to Palestine, what Israel has done to every other country, what Israel's done to Lebanon, deploying phosphorus, right? Chemical warfare, things of that nature. So, like, I need you to understand something. The only reason why we were comfortable violating the rules of law is because we thought no one else would do it to people in the core. And now there is a fraction of that taste in the core, a taste of their own medicine. What? You break BDS? I have no sympathy? What are you talking about? Shut the fuck up, chatter. Jesus Christ, you're so moral, okay? You're so moral. You're right. What, that fucking chatter's sister who's you know, working in a school should die then? Shut up. You're a fucking idiot.